Welcome back to Bachman's Basement. I'm your host, Chris Clawson, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Patton. A word to the wise. Be sure to grab a pair of work gloves, a shovel, and a case of water, because tonight we're headed into the Nevada desert, hell-bent on revenge, and digging into a story about a grudge that literally goes 6 feet under. But before we hit the road, how's your week been, Chris? What you been playing? What you been watching? What you been listening to?
It's been a crazy one. It's nothing, just more life stuff, not anything content wise. I'm redoing my entire office at the moment. So this is a new PC, new setup, new mic. Hopefully people like it, by the way. You can hear it right now. But yeah, it's that, and then we had some of our outside cats have had some health issues that we've been dealing with. It's been not so fun.
Yeah, that's
as
rough.
far as things that I've played, I actually got the new PC set up. I installed Overwatch on PC, played through that a little bit today with the new cast and characters, and that was fun. We talked about doing some games this weekend, so hopefully we'll get together and get to play some Overwatch. It's feels like it's been a year since I've touched Overwatch.
I think whenever the last time we played together was the last time I played, so it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And then I pulled up my Steam list, and there's 200 games in there. And as I was scrolling through that list, I saw Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2. So I installed both of those and started playing Knights of the Old Republic, just walking through that, which has been really, really fun. I love that game. It's just, I'm actually kind of running it with some cheats just because there are some early annoyances I didn't feel like dealing with, such as like running out of computer spikes. And there's ways to get around that if you're going to really, really play the game. But I don't know if I'm going to dedicate playing through it for the 10th time. But the game is still brilliant. I still want that remaster. It looks really good on my new PC with some mods installed. And what that game could be always makes my body crave it. It's like, come on, you guys have been talking about it for 6-7 years now. When are we going to get that remake? But it hasn't happened yet. So I replayed through that. I am about to get into the swoop bike race, which is kind of right before you infiltrate the first Sith military base and get off the planet in the Ebon Hawk. So that's kind of where I'm at in the game. If there's any fans out there that love that, you might get to see some of that coming up later in the Patton report. But yeah, I did that. And as far as things I've been watching, no cool movies. Rest in peace to James Vanderbeek. I did check out Varsity Blues after hearing that news. I kind of like to pick the thing that I want to see them in after I hear something that sad. And that's a really, really tragic passing with him being so young and having so many kids. But yeah, so go watch Varsity Blues or, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back or, Dawson's Creek. That's always there for you if you want to put in the work like I do watching Law and Order, which is the other thing I've been watching. Season 13. I'm moving along, Chris. Getting close.
Yeah. Yes, justice.
How about you, buddy? What have you been up to? Hopefully things going a little better on your end than mine, and your desk and office is not in as much of a disarray as mine is.
Well, honestly, yeah, I don't have a desk. I'm just sitting on my couch with a laptop to do this thing. But yeah, life in general is going pretty good. Had at work, I had somebody broke into my store in the middle of the night and just broke out. It's a glass door to the front of the store I work at, and they just busted through it and stole a bunch of merchandise. And then that evening, like 12 hours later, after this guy, he obviously was trying to get stuff to sell for drugs because the officer that pulled up at the end of my shift was delivering back stolen goods and then also letting me know where they captured him, apprehended him in the police parking lot. He's just booking it through the police parking lot, trying to jump a fence. It's like you got away with something, terrible, which by the way, where I work is right across the street from a police department, and he got away with it. And then for some reason, decided to go back, you know, pretty close to where he did that crime, and in a police parking lot got himself arrested. Thank goodness, I guess, that's you want to see justice. You want to see people paying for their crimes. But that's the most exciting thing. My wife's birthday was yesterday, so happy belated birthday. Little podcast shout out to Cassie. And other than that, I haven't really watched anything to speak on that. And really, since I finished GTA 5, I've just been sort of not really playing in earnest anything. So this week, kind of boring, I guess.
Yeah, it's time to lock in on Red Dead Redemption 2, which you're also really, really far behind on. That's the next task. Listeners out there, make sure you contact Clawson and tell him to get to it.
Get on it.
Get cracking. It seemed to work for Grand Theft Auto because I had been telling him to finish it for years to no avail. So if you guys can get on that, he'll have his time episode.
I definitely want to have finished Red Dead before GTA 6 comes out so that I can feel good about, games that I bought from Rockstar, and that I'm not just buying another Rockstar game not to play it, So
you did see the guy who I think he killed his wife or something. It's tragic what happened, but him getting arrested, and he's like, I'm not going to get to play Grand Theft Auto 6.
No way. That was really what he said.
Yes. That was the he got picked up and get arrested. He knows he's probably going to get life in prison, and he's like, I am never going to get to play Grand Theft Auto 6.
This is true, but
which is a weird thing to have as a priority after murdering someone. But
sounds like a real stand-up guy there.
Yeah, sounds like someone that's really got his shit in order. Yeah, I do want to say happy birthday, Cassie. I did I shot her a message yesterday saying that, but officially on the show, happy birthday to your wife. Hopefully you guys will get to do something fun this weekend.
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. It feels like my life is one of those, like, I try not to plan. And then I plan for things, but like usually just, day to day, week to week. For the most part, I'm just like, I'm just going to see what happens. And that there's always something going on. So I have no idea what's happening this weekend, but hopefully it's cool.
Yeah, you always get the birthday, Valentine's Day back to back. And also your birthday wasn't that long ago as well. So you guys have it kind of comes in how many outings are you going to do?
And then we got my son's birthday coming up here in a week as well. So yeah, it's like 3 in a row just happened, like bam, bam, bam. So that's cool. It's also a little bit stressful, but then it's over. It's like it's real quick. It happens. February is kind of a blur.
Yeah, you almost get like a second holiday month. You get December and then a little bit of a break during January, and then birthday plus Valentine's Day.
Yep. Yeah, it's a little bit, it's a little bit much. Sometimes I feel like all of these holidays, not birthdays so much, but holidays, sometimes just feel like it's like a cash grab, this capitalist society that we live in. And I'm just like, man, it's another one where I have to spend money.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it so much, I guess, if I had kids or something, but I don't. So it's literally, it's buying presents for my nieces. That's kind of the big thing that I like. I enjoy that. That's fun. But then it's awkward family situations of which we don't really want to buy each other presents anyways, but it's like this like cultural obligation where, if you don't show up with one, someone's going to buy you something. And then there's like an awkward, I'm like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory with this exchange. Now I feel like I owe you something kind of thing with gifts. And it shouldn't be that way, but that's how Christmases work my entire life.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like I look forward to getting my kids gifts because it's that's I had that, as a kid, and that was exciting, and I remember what that's like. But then at some point, people grow up, they have their own money, they can buy their things they want. And it's like I feel like, yeah, gift giving is for birthdays and for kids for the like Christmas.
Yeah, I did my own Christmas. It's just a couple months late. That's called tax return, in which I buy a bunch of things that actually it's all things I did need. I did need to upgrade my PC and a new desk. My desk right now is maybe 36 inches wide,
Wow.
which for the amount of time that I started spending at it with only working from home, like one day remote and working from home all the time, plus Xbox and PC and monitor,
Yeah.
singular there, by the way, guys, singular monitor, because the desk is so small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was not meant for what it has been doing. So we'll have to say goodbye to we'll call her old Betsy because I've never named my desk before, but we had to put her down.
Getting a
If
name
anyone
on.
lives nearby in Georgia and needs a 36-inch desk for like a child's bedroom or something, hit me up. I might list that on Facebook Marketplace for free.
Nice. Yeah. Well, should we get into it?
I guess this is a good one. This is a really, really good one with
This is one I need to start before we even start talking about this. So I want to give another shout out to Cassie's coworker, Micah, who was talking to her like I don't know, a month or two ago, and asking if I had read Dolan's Cadillac, which is, spoiler alert, the the today's topic. But yeah, so that conversation that she had, then she shared that with me, and I was like, "Oh, yes, I've read it," and then just reread it. But that one, just like I hadn't been thought about it in a long time, and then rereading, I was like, "Man, this is a really good one." So I'm excited to talk about it.
yeah, it's a great one that I'd kind of forgotten about. It's the first story in Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Yes,
Um, and I think that I read that when I read Nightmare and Dreamscapes, and I've never thought about it again, except for they made that movie in 2009, which we are not covering today, but we may do a revisit of the Christian Slater Dolan's Cadillac classic at some point.
right. Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I need to watch it. But just talking about today's story, obviously, Dolan's Cadillac. With this story, it's first published, as you mentioned, in the 80s. It was released in installments, and then it was later anchored into the Nightmares and Dreamscapes collection in the early 90s. Uh, Not your typical supernatural spook fest, that King's known for. No interdimensional monsters, no psychic kids. Instead, this story is just one man's journey for retribution and the cost that of achieving that. So, story is simple. He's a third grade teacher, only ever referred to by his last name, Robinson, in the tale, who spent the last 7 years grieving the tragic murder of his wife, who was also a school teacher, uh, when she witnessed something that she shouldn't have and was then silenced with a car bomb before she could testify at the behest of a high level mob boss by the name of Dolan. So the story is a grueling look at what happens when a good man becomes a monster in order to capture a monster. It's a story about the physics of labor, the sound of screaming metal, and the psychological toll of listening to your enemy beg while you bury him alive. The real horror of this tale lies in the mental decay of a man who trades his soul for a shovel. And I think Stephen King is certainly tipping his hat here to Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado, trading a family catacomb for a remote stretch of Nevada highway. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I would have to agree. This is very much, and Stephen King has not made any qualms about his work relating to Edgar Allan Poe. And and neither has many other horror writers, but there is a direct correlation almost to the point where it is just that set in modern time with a story. The big difference is you don't ever get what causes the cask of Amontillado. It's never explained as far as your, I guess, protagonist. But it's very much very similar. It's especially the live entombment and kind of the aftermath and the physical cost and the planning specifically throughout the story. It's one that I hadn't thought about in forever as far as Edgar Allan, probably less than this. In all honesty, it's probably something I would have read in like high school. But yeah, just premeditated revenge, careful planning, burying the victim being alive during the burial, and very calm and controlled avengement for this atrocity that's happened, and personal retribution. The biggest difference is Fortunato, like what the story is, why he needs this revenge is never clearly explained. And I think, this story kind of takes that and dumps it on its head a little bit. So they are different in that sense. But if you're going to read one, I would suggest also reading the other, because they're both great.
Right. It's like, I think I've said it on this podcast before. Stephen King says there's a million ways to dress up a hot dog. The analogy being that it might be at its core sort of the same concept, but he dresses it up with the new setting and different characters, different motivations, and it makes it into something new and interesting. And this is fantastic. So
this also would have been a great one to do right after road work. So
sorry,
right? Sorry that we dropped the ball on that, listening.
Right, because there's certainly quite a bit of that in the story as well.
Long-term planning, they would have went well back to back. But yeah, this one kind of knocked my socks off reading it again for a second time, if I'm being completely honest, before we dive too deep.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those stories that really is like a gut punch to your morality. It's like you really feel for the main character in a way that, like, by the end of it, you feel the loss of his humanity, really. So yeah, talking about the anatomy of Robinson's descent, that starts with obsession, where Robinson, being a school teacher, he's busied himself over the years just trying to do his job. And he's visited in his mind by the voice of his dead wife, Elizabeth, and she's just kind of ever present there. But kind of the obsession with getting revenge on Dolan, this Robinson ceases to be a school teacher and instead becomes a student of Dolan. And he's tracking everywhere he goes, every habit, every rotation of those Cadillac tires. So this is all to say, that this is a long-term sort of thing. This is, it doesn't just happen, like she doesn't die and then like a week or a month or a year later. This is like brought on over the better part of a decade. So yeah, that he realizes that he doesn't know how he can get revenge without being caught or being killed. So, this long sort of like process, and realizes that maybe if he could capture him while he's moving, that would be an answer. But then he doesn't understand how he could possibly pull that off. And then the idea comes to him that if he could understand how to use construction equipment, then maybe he could enact this plan. So he gets a summer job doing road construction in the Nevada desert, which is just a wild, thing to take on, especially with the description of this man. He's a very small frame, bald, and just very light skinned, and that whole conversation between him and the foreman when he's trying to get the job is, I thought it was uh, pretty true.
Yeah,
But
it's like the guy from Princess Bride that's like inconceivable is how I
right,
pictured him in my mind when they were going through and describing the character. So
right.
yeah, like him taking the job is definitely, out of character, but yeah, you need people to work in 110-degree weather. You're not,
Yeah, you have to be not only physically strong, but also like not too light complected, because you're gonna, yeah, be out in the sun for 12 hours a day, and yeah, it's not going to go well. So obviously he pushes his body to the point of failure first as he takes that job, learning how to do and use these machines, and then also, um, secondly, as he goes to the task of digging the trench that will become Dolan's grave, this is like damn near kills him both times, when he's out there, just because it's so grueling. You're out in this, just unforgiving desert, in July, which is uh, when he realizes at some point he's like, he has to line this up in such a way that uh, it works for his schedule and Dolan's schedule, that it doesn't look suspicious in any way. And so he just waits patiently with the knowledge, and just watches and waits and looks for that opportunity. And so that's really what this story is just, this Robinson character just biding his time, and it's a lot of him sort of exposition of his mind and how that relates to how he's going to get the revenge. And then of course, that it all kind of lines up. I really enjoyed the part where he's figured out, okay, Dolan's going to be making a trip on the 4th of July weekend. And then he's like, well, I don't know what day he's planning to leave, though, because it's like Vegas is where this mobster lives. And then he also has a house in LA. And he knows that he'll be traveling this stretch of highway that he needs him to be on, or likely based on his habits in the past. But so he like calls up the cleaning, or the people that are at the house, which is a cleaning crew, when he realizes that they're cleaning the house in LA, and pretends to be a party planner to try to just get a little more information out of them as to when Dolan's going to be arriving, playing it off like, well, Dolan has a party plan for Saturday, and I'm supposed to have some things, and I just want to know if he has a large enough party bowl there. Otherwise, the one I have, so on. The one I have isn't available. And the guy's like, wait, he's coming on Saturday? He had told me he's coming on Sunday, and that whole thing. And then he's like, let me look at my schedule. Oh, I was mistaken. It is Sunday. My bad. Actually, in that case, I'm good, sort of thing. So that gives him that knowledge. And I just thought that was interesting, the the amount of just planning, or I guess chances that he takes to not be caught, but also to find out this information from a really dangerous man.
yeah, this is almost private investigator level of detail to set up the fall, right? No pun intended. But yeah, just to go into a little detail of why our main character here is just so distraught. We kind of hit it in the opening, but Elizabeth Robinson, she witnessed Jimmy Dolan executing illegal immigrants and just in the desert. The scene, the way it's written, is absolutely brutal. He's dumping bodies in trenches. It establishes Dolan's character as not just a mob boss, but someone who just treats human life with disregard altogether. She's convinced to testify against him as a witness. That goes into the car explosion, But what we learn about Dolan throughout this is this Cadillac. So Dolan's Cadillac is this presidential level of unshootable, unblowupable car,
Yeah,
almost in the way that it's fictional.
self-sealing tires, yeah, bulletproof glass. Yeah, it's like it's a tank, that he's just reinforced this Cadillac in such a way because he knows that he's got enemies all over the place. And so anytime he travels, that's how he travels. And obviously, that's why he has certain habits and does things in a certain way because, well, it worked the last time. And this is how I stay safe. I stay inside of this vehicle from A to B.
Yes. And then you get into more into our main character's 7-year obsession and planning of this revenge, right? And that ties into, you could even say, like the Count of Monte Cristo, right? Where Stephen King is kind of channeling multiple different writers and coming up with these different things. But it's the thing that makes it powerful is it's not like impulsive. It's very much like a blue collar take of how do I take down this mob boss and get away scot free. And the patience of it is kind of what makes it scary. And the way that he's not in a rush to make it happen, it's just going to happen when it happens. And
Right.
hopefully he gets there first, because there's other times where he says, like, somebody else could just knock him off in public, right? Because you are dealing with a mob boss. So there are parts of that. But the whole planning and the process about it almost becomes, and this is why I said it would have been good to do back to back with road work. There is rage there and like almost an obsession, but it's almost ritualistic in the way that he's doing this planning,
Yeah,
against something that's
exactly.
bigger than he is to some extent. But yeah, I just wanted to give like a little further backstory of how my brain approached reading it up until this point of where he is starting to actually, let's say, set the trap, right? For lack
Right.
of a better term.
Exactly. And I guess talking also about like that moral void, that thing that's happening to Robinson, the moment that the trap is set for Dolan, when the trap is sprung, which we'll go into more detail on the trap as we go here. But Robinson just ceases to see him as a human being anymore and merely as a problem to be buried. So that conversation that he has with Dolan uh, towards the end of the story, as he begins to bury the Cadillac, is evidence of Robinson's transformation, uh, which I think maybe is the most disturbing part of the story. But this whole time, one of the chilling aspects of Robinson's descent is how he uses the voice of his dead wife. Early on in the story, she's a source of comfort and motivation for him, where she's just urging him to get justice for her. But by the end, that voice becomes a harsh taskmaster, just driving him to ignore his failing body. And it raises the ultimate Bachman-esque question of, is she actually there? Like a spirit speaking to him, or is Robinson just using her memory as a psychological whip to justify his own cruelty?
Yeah, and then that once again ties to road work, right? Like where he's talking to his dead son
Yeah,
and using the nicknames that they used, like inner monologue of it. And there's something there where he's completely cracked as a person, but it's the way that Stephen King sprinkles in those little details where you're almost in the mind of the main character, where you're like, well, is he though? It's very well written in that sense, in both cases.
yeah. Uh, One of the obviously, as you're reading this, you as the reader are gonna be critical of like, well, could a frail little third grade school teacher, how would he actually accomplish this? The physics of of the trap and everything. And so King even goes to that length to write that into the story with Robinson having a sort of a in theory conversation with one of his colleagues who understands physics under that assumption that, let's just say in theory, how would someone stop and then give sort of the dimensions of a Cadillac that would be moving at, let's say, I don't know, 55 miles an hour. And this guy who's just, a math focused sort of physics guy kind of just plans it out for him, gives him all of the angles and everything that he needs to know, and answers all the questions he would have never asked with regards to how to stop the vehicle without it flipping over, the angle of descent, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah, and it's crazy in the way that it's written. It almost reads like a heist film, but
right.
it's not like robbing a bank or something. It's just concealing this Cadillac into the ground, which is kind of nuts. And just the amount of detail that they go into for what ends up being a Wile E. Coyote ass trap, for lack of a better term, because it's basically what it is.
It's
Like,
awesome.
it is awesome. And I know that Stephen King, when he's writing it, he's like, oh, that's funny. As the way that it goes down. But there's, darker shades. Like I said, you get your Poe, you Count of Monte Cristo, the 7 years of this big buildup for the conclusion to be what it is. But it's the brutal toll that he describes, like the back injuries, the physical exhaustion, dehydration, the tension of passing cars, going by, seeing him, set this giant rat trap. Like the horror element of it is very logistical.
Like, you kind of get in his mind and put yourself in that situation, and you can only imagine, being out there and seeing cars go by, and like, what if somebody doesn't believe that you're there as, as a road construction guy, and that they call the cops on you or something, the nervousness. And then what if you miss Dolan? What if you don't set the trap right and he susses it out, Dolan's a guy that has to be on his toes, and because there's people trying to kill him all the time. So he's got a sense when he's being followed, or, something's amiss. So that, that is certainly something that is described a lot in the story as well.
Yeah, you have to love that some of the characters are just construction equipment. I wrote that in my notes. There's a lot of just construction equipment characters, which is awesome. I love the detail of setting this trap.
One of the things, one of my only criticisms of the story is more of a, just a logistics thing. And it's like, if you worked road construction for a summer and you're digging in the dirt, with a shovel, and you would know to put on a pair of work gloves. And it feels like, when he's digging this trench, after he uses the machine to dig out the asphalt, then he's got to pull that dirt out, and he's not as experienced with the backhoe, so he does a lot of the scaling work of digging with his hands and a shovel. And it feels to me like he's not wearing gloves, because his hands are just torn to shreds by the end of it. But maybe
that's
not.
One of those things where you start out in construction, a lot of people tell you not to wear gloves so that you can build the calluses up. At least in the South, it's like an get tough kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's similar. I've never worked road work, so or that level of construction, mostly just like framing houses and things of that nature. So I can't speak on that, but that could have easily been solved in one sentence. So I didn't think about that too hard, because that's probably a personal experience thing, where old Southerners will just be like, with hands of stone, if you shake their hands, they'll just be like, yeah, you'll get over that real quick after a couple weeks of digging.
Right. Your hands will just get tough.
So I didn't. It is weird that they go back to it to talk about how brutalized his hands are, because literally, if you do that for 2 weeks, any kind of physical labor job, like masonry, for instance, you'll have like a hand of stone after
Right.
like a month of doing that with no gloves on. Um, you'll be miserable for a month, but afterwards,
Yeah. I mean, the body is extremely, able to adapt
we
to
are talking. We're also talking about 7 year period here, right?
true. This isn't something he's doing constantly, meaning like he's not working road construction like summer after summer, year after year. This is like a one-off. He does it for the summer so he can learn the basic idea of how to use the equipment and subscribe to like a mailer so that he can keep up on when projects are going on. So, that's allows him to know when there's going to be road construction on the highway. And he's like, that's part of his master plan. He's like, three things need to line up. Dolan needs to be moving on the highway of his own volition. There needs to be already the beginning of a road construction with signs out there. And then, obviously it needs to be at a time when he's not uh, obligated to work, as a school teacher. So that is interesting how he's just waiting patiently for all of those things, all those the planets to align, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. It like you would think though that he would know after doing these jobs during the summer that he would practice digging in his backyard or something, just to
Right.
keep the calluses up, or like you said, use gloves. But
Yeah.
that wouldn't be as fun as a reader to get to hear the grotesquerie around his hands.
Yeah. And that's sort of like, Robinson toiling away in this, Nevada sun in early July. The descriptions that King gives us are just gut wrenching, with the hand descriptions of his hands just getting torn up, as well as that sunburn that he sustains on his head because he's a bald man. So that
Which much like your gloves, solved by a hat.
exactly.
So
These are prerequisites in my mind that I would be like, I'm gonna bring a pair of gloves. I'm also gonna bring some protection from the sun.
see, that's what I was getting at. Is that these two complaints were easily solved by like one guy being like, "Hey, don't be a wussy."
Exactly. Just so that there's an excuse to have him suffer. But yeah, obviously it comes down to, he everything lines up. He digs this trench at a certain angle so that the car, when it goes in, it won't, going at the speed that it's going, it won't flip. It has to be a shallower descent. Uh, and it also starts wider and narrows down. So the car, from any part of the road, he will just go down into this trench and then will be wedged in. The car will be stuck. And so that's an interesting sort of like you can just see it, as he's digging this, you can just visualize that. And then after he's finished setting up the trap, then he covers it up. Was it like some sort of gray tarp that matches the same color as the road? So from a far enough distance as you're traveling down the road, as probably anyone that's been in a car on a sunny day, the road just looks like the road. Even if there's something amiss, you just don't see it till the last minute. And that's exactly what ends up happening, where they just booking it down the road and the car just drops into this trench, into this trap. And then that's really where the story, I think the most interesting, maybe even the most, I don't know, the most disturbing part of the story anyway, that is that ending, maybe the last 10 or 15 pages with him uh just talking to Dolan, and Dolan trying to talk his way out of this situation, thinking that maybe he can get out of it, offering him money, and then Robinson saying, "I want you to scream for me, and if it's loud enough, I promise I'll let you out." You know, and so Dolan goes to screaming as loud as he possibly can, just ruining his voice, and then while Robinson's just filling in the dirt, it's just it's pretty disturbing. But
Yeah, it's disturbing because like Robinson kind of loses all of his moral high ground. It slowly disappears once this we get to this inevitable entombment of the Cadillac itself. Um, because up to this point, you're kind of like Robinson's kind of the right. Everything. This guy's terrible, terrible person. But like the way that Dolan is reacting to everything that's happening, and how Robinson's kind of just enjoying it, just enjoying the 7 years of labor finally paying off. It shifts the moral high ground a little bit, where it shows the shades of gray of humanity in a way that I don't think a lot of people want to think about.
right,
Um, and he definitely becomes something very different than the start of the novel.
exactly. And so yeah, the story is sort of a monument to the idea that if you spend the better part of a decade digging a grave for your enemy, you'd better be prepared to live in it yourself. Sort of the moral of the story is revenge is never a win. It's just a transaction. Robinson, in order for him to get his peace, he has to pay for that with his humanity. So that, that's the long and the short of it. It is awesome, just so well written. And I'm going to give this a Bachman score of 8.5. It's fantastic. It's a fairly quick read, couple hours, you can read it. It's not the very tippy top of Stephen King's powers as a writer, but man, it is just a very satisfying read.
This is one I absolutely love, so I'm going to go a little higher. Actually, yeah, I'm going to go 9.1.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a banger of a story. So
Yeah, on the reread, I remember liking this, and I just didn't remember much about it, but I remember liking it when I read Nightmares and Dreamscapes. It's just something that hasn't came back to me until now, but through the reread, and also being, 20 years older, uh, I love it. I love the story, and the movie's okay too. Christian Slater's pretty good at it, so give that a watch. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9.1.
awesome. Uh how about I guess since we're on the wrap up, where can people find you online?
Christopher.r.patton on both Facebook and Instagram, www.boinkstudios.com for every other thing I participate in. You'll get to hear great shows from Tom Clark, the Bear Mode podcast, for instance, where they go over every episode of The Bear, or other things like if you like wrestling, you'll get the Tom Clark's Main Event, the 6M podcast, which I participate in quite a bit, and Race Sports and Slams if you're into wrestling and sports. I think they just did their Super Bowl episode, so they talk about the Super Bowl halftime show and the game itself and all of that good jazz. That's all out there for you guys. And then also the Patton Report, where I talk about video games. That might be switching. The format of that might be switching more to a Twitch type stream, but I'll keep you guys informed here if you guys are into that kind of thing. You also hear it on the Patton Report if you listen to that show. And thank you guys so much for listening in general.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, thank you to anyone out there that's listening. And if you're looking to get in contact with me, I'm on Facebook, Christopher Clawson. My Instagram is Chris_Clawson 1982. And with that, I guess we'll wrap things up. As the dust settles over that stretch of Nevada highway, we're left with the chilling realization: the Cadillac wasn't the only thing buried in that hole. Robinson might have walked away, but the school teacher who started the journey died somewhere between the first shovel of dirt and the last bag of asphalt. Thanks again for joining us here in the basement. Be sure to watch your step on the way out. And remember, if you hear a voice in the desert wind, it's probably best to keep driving.